Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Om Om Shanti 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 Om Namaste. We are back to the 14th chapter of the Gita. The topic is the gunas. So Krishna began introducing the topic by reminding us that everything we see in this physical material realm is a mixture of Purusha, which is consciousness, and Prakriti, which is matter/energy. So everything is that. And then he's going to begin an unfolding or breaking down what Prakriti is. So we know that we have consciousness as the spirit, as the only reality. And then we have Prakriti, which is going to be unfolded as the three energies. Prakriti brings about three energies, and these three energies are going to produce the entire cosmos as the little we know about it. So that's what our scripture says, and that's where we're gonna go here. So the previous verse was saying that whatever forms born in all the wombs, for all of them, the greatest prakriti is the womb. I am the father, so we have seen last class the concept of Brahman, or Purusha being the father, and prakriti being the mother, the womb. Yeah? And then we have the seed, and we have the womb, and then the universe appears. So we have seen this last class. And just change it, this color here. I am Purusha Tattvam. And what is Purusha Tattvam? Do you remember the definition, says Swamiji? So we know, we remember, we still have good memory. Nirguna, Nirvikara, Satya, and Chetana Tattvam. So we do not change in our true nature. We don't have any attributes. The attributes belong to our Prakriti nature. We are the only source of consciousness or sentience, and we, as limitless, unchanging nirvikara and nirguna consciousness, we are free and independent from anything which is but a superimposition of Maya, Prakriti of Maya. We are being free and independent means we are the absolute reality, whereas Prakriti, as we know, is the opposite, is inert, it's savikara, it's saguna, it is mithya, it's not really real. It's real, but it's not real. So the world we experience during the dream state is real in reference to the dreamer, but it's not really real in reference to the awaker or to the deep sleeper. And then what kind of reality it is? It's a relative reality. It depends upon, certain conditions. Depends upon the state of mind or state of human consciousness in which we experience a certain duality. The dream world, the deep sleep world. So any one of these realities, quote unquote, they are relative to the state of the mind of human consciousness, of the ahamkara. So whereas our true nature is Purusha, we are the only reality because we are the background, we are the substratum, we are that on which all these relative realities are superimposed, and all universe, present, past, and future, everything depends on something unchanging, free from the gunas, free from attributes, qualities, so that the qualities of the gunas, the prakriti mind, can be seen and perceived and experienced. We need to have an unchanging, more unmodified, and unguna, I mean, without any attributes of the guna, so that those things can find support. We are the adhisthana. We are just that which somehow we conceive Maya to project those things upon ourselves, the only reality. Therefore, it's said that consciousness plus matter is Ishvara, and Ishvara Paramatma is Karanam. So this Ishvara Paramatma, which means the true nature of Ishvara, is Nirguna Atma, is Karanam in a way, okay? So it says that Purusha is the cause of the universe. Jiva Atma is Karyam. In fact, Ishvara here, Ishvara, I don't know why he put Ishvara Paramatma. Because first he established that Ishvara is a mixture of Purusha and Sattva Guna and Prakriti. In the previous passage, if I remember well, he was unfolding the nature of the mixture of Purusha plus Prakriti is equal to Ishvara. And then I was trying to, I was explaining that means the Sattva Guna nature, of Prakriti brings about Ishvara. So Ishvara is a reflection that occurs within the Prakriti of Maya, which is dominated by Sattva Guna. Sattva, Pradhana, Prakriti produce Ishvara. So, and here he says this Ishvara is the cause, and Jivatma is its creation. Then we go back to the concept. It's concept of creator, creation, and creature. So Jivatma is a byproduct, is an effect, is a karyam. Jagat is another karyam. So we have the creator, the creature, and the creation, cause and effect. And when we say that there is a cause, which is a mixture of consciousness plus matter, this further clarifies that here Ishvara Paramatma means Saguna Ishvara. If we have Saguna Ishvara as the cause, and if we know that this Ishvara is a mixture of Purusha and Prakriti, and then every subproduct, every byproduct, every effect is also going to be a mixture of Purusha and Prakriti. Okay, so far so good. Everything is going to be made of the same two principles. Now, of course, this can be unfolded when we say consciousness plus Prakriti. The Jivatma is also a mixture of consciousness plus Prakriti, but its construct is under the influence of much more Tamoguna and Rajoguna to allow the grossification of a body such as our physical body. So everything is a mixture of consciousness, Purusha, and Prakriti. Karana, Jagata as well, the inert world of the elements. It is also a mixture of Purusha plus Prakriti. Everything. So in me also, so I, the Jivatma, I'm just like Ishvara. I'm a mixture of Purusha and Prakriti. So, but I have a lot of a lot of tamaguna and rajoguna within my constitution. That makes things a little bit more difficult, but allow us to experience duality from the standpoint of the experiencer, a conscious experiential. This analysis is going to be the subject matter of the 14th chapter. We have got the changing feature, also have got the changeless feature. So prakriti is changing, and purusha is changeless. And then he's going to say again, saguna and nirguna. And we are the mixture of matter consciousness. So it means to say that I have a higher nature within myself, which is purusha, which is consciousness. If I'm a mixture of both, we can say, okay, what is your human nature? It's a mixture of both. But within this mixture, I may highly identify with my prakriti nature, or I highly identify with my purusha nature. But we are a mixture of both. Okay. So if we are a mixture of both, we could say, and that's the point here, that we have a higher nature, which is purusha. It cannot be experienced without us experiencing our prakriti nature. So what is our mixture nature? Is both, a mixture of both, but I can also say that within this mixture nature of mine, there is a higher element and the lower element, so to speak. These are words that do not mean much, but I have, in terms of Vedantic language, I may have the choice to identify with my true nature as Purusha consciousness or my Prakriti nature, which is the body, mind, sense complex. And the process of Vedanta is nothing but only this, understanding the configuration or the composition, understanding the Jiva nature until we get clear to this point. This is the ultimate condensation of the nature of the Jiva is Prakriti and spirit consciousness. But then from Prakriti, we're going to say, so everything at the three gunas. So the Jiva are the three gunas and consciousness. And then we can go and say the Jiva, to make things more complex, are the subtle elements, which grossify to become the dense physical and chemical elements. And then it explodes, with different configurations, producing all kinds of possible qualities and attributes within every one of us, Jiva, human Jivas, no? So we try to understand our Jiva nature, our mixture nature, human nature, which is a mixture of both. The more we understand it in its foundation, its base, better our potential to own our spiritual nature, to own our true nature, understand? To claim and own and live from that perspective. Swami puts it often in the terms of lower and higher nature. I prefer to put in terms of real and apparent nature. It's just a question of preference. Therefore, I should understand these true principles. And that takes us to the verse 5. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. These are the three gunas born of Prakriti. They hold, they bound, they fasten the changeless self in the body, Arjuna. So he's presenting the gunas as the robes, okay? The robes are that which somehow ties the Jivatma, yeah, which fundamentally is consciousness, appearing as reflect consciousness, it somehow ties it to the body mind sense complex, and the individual experience a very, very strong identification with the body mind sense complex and its limitation being the most cruel and indignating is the limitation of time. No? Though all of that comes from the ropes, the gunas or Arjuna, know that. So this is another verse that is so important for anyone trying to understand one's jiva nature. You see, when we go into the direct teachings of anyone, including most of the pointers of uh, Ramana Maharaj, they don't really address jiva nature, Jagata nature, Dharma, and things like that. It addresses a little bit of devotion, but it's most direct kind of instructions to realize the self, which is potent, is the most direct, the most powerful, but yet only for highly, highly developed spiritual seekers. But here we are breaking it down to this concept of consciousness, which is God, which is the only reality, and prakriti. And prakriti is basically unfolding into three energies, and these three energies being Sattva, the energy that calls intelligence. So it's total knowledge. So many times we see consciousness said to be knowledge, in different approach, different language or scriptures or texts, they call knowledge as chit, as consciousness. So this knowledge manifests as a knowing entity, which is Ishvara. Okay, so Sattva energy is the energy that allows this incredible being deprived of a physical body, deprived of a subtle body, to just be there as pure knowledge, holding and managing, keeping in place this entire cosmos. All of that is based on pure knowledge. Knowledge. So consciousness, chit, manifests as pure knowledge, and in this knowledge is what holds this universe in place by its laws and principles. And the jiva starts to understand the three gunas, say like, okay, sattva is pure knowledge. So no wonder people call God as the omniscient, the all-knowing principle that holds the entire cosmos. And among these laws and principles, there is a very important law that refers to us, and our scriptures highlight these laws, which is the law of karma. Okay? So if we live moved by our raga dveshas, we're going to act in violation to that most fundamental law. And there will be consequence. The consequence is conflict. It's going to be disturbance, emotional disturbance, mental disturbance. Therefore, the sattva guna, the sattva energy, is responsible for our creator, Ishvara, as pure knowledge, the intelligence, as I like to say, holding every living creature here. Of course, it's difficult to keep that vision at all times, that remembrance at all times, But that is the purpose of a human life, to develop an ability to see this supreme intelligence, this pure sattva guna, this creator, holding this manifestation in place. And of course, when it comes down to the nature of the jiva, which is what we want to understand as well, it says, okay, I have prakriti and I have spirit, and prakriti is nothing but the three energies. It means to say I have some sattva guna on my side as well, on my constitution as well. Uh, So I have Sattva Guna because I'm a byproduct of Prakriti. I don't have all the Sattva Guna the Lord has, but I have some. This is the first point. And then Raja Guna. So Raja Guna is very important because it's what moves us. It produces our goals, our desires. We follow these desires to accomplish these desires. And life is nothing but chasing desires until we understand that desire is a trap. It's a total trap. But we have this energy which propels us to live life, getting up in the morning and not feeling depressed, not wanting to come out of our blankets or during the summer under out of the air-conditioned room. So we have Rajoguna that moves us. It's a beautiful, important energy that serves us to move into the realm of interaction with this duality. And there is a purpose for that. It's not about enjoying sensory pleasures, but it's about learning from experiences, extract wisdom from experience. Rajoguna is fundamental. So we have Sattva Guna, we have Rajoguna that compels us, towards the world so that we may learn certain lessons and start getting a little wiser every day. And we have Tamaguna. Tamaguna allows us a structure, a physical structure that somehow is in resonance with the structure of the physical universe. I have to have a physical body to be interact with the physical universe. Oh no, I'm going to use my subtle body. It does not work. To interact with the physical universe, you have to have a physical body. And the game of life is that to have a physical body, totally in harmony, in resonance with the physical universe, so that I enter the game of life. And then I have Sattva Guna in my mind, which allows me to learn some lessons. I have Rajoguna, which is going to propel me into chasing things until I get tired of chasing, either because I'm too old to chase or because, I got too wise to chase things. So all of that is born out of Prakriti, Arjuna. And this Prakriti is going to host us the self within the identification with the body mind, aham body mind as me, as I like to put. So this is the prison, this is the bind that these gunas, often described as the ropes that ties us to the samsara through this hardwired identification with the physical body. So I'm saying that before entering into a proper or deep analysis, he's going to give us a heads up. He says Bhagwan is a mixture of consciousness and matter. The individual as well, as a obvious consequence is a mixture as well. We have our prakriti nature. Our physical body is made out of physical prakriti. Our physical body is made out of physical prakriti nature. What is my physical prakriti nature is predominantly my tamasic nature. But then this physical body, which is made out of the gross elements, needs to have the pranas, which are more subtle. It needs to have a subtle body, the indweller that's going to somehow to ride this carriage, so that we can achieve our highest goal possibly. Has got attributes, properties are there. The body is savikara or nivikara. Of course, the body is savikara, is made out of dense prakriti, dominated by a lot of tamaguna. Of course, everything is subject to change. The subtle body has a lot of sattva, but they are all the time changing. How so? It changed sattva guna, converts to rajoguna, and then converts to tamaguna. So it's all the time a flux of conversions there. Our physical body remains physical in spite of all the changes of the guna we see, because there is enough tamaguna to hold its predominance. The body say, no, I am predominantly tamaguna and I'm not going to let rajaguna or sattva guna destroy my temple, which is the physical prakriti body. It's a question of predominance. Similarly, the mind also is prakriti. That's called the body, mind, sense complex and purusha. Consciousness, as we know, is free from change, free from gunas, the only source of consciousness. And it's not part, product, or property of the prakriti. This is very important pointer. It takes care of a lot of confusion. This consciousness has no relationship with prakriti whatsoever. It does not depend on prakriti. Oh, no, no. The human consciousness depends on prakriti, because the human consciousness depends on the reflecting medium, which is the subtle body, so that we can experience our human consciousness or reflect consciousness or chidabhasa. But consciousness is free and independent. So it's not part, it's not a product, it's not an effect, it's not dependent on prakriti. It has no properties. Properties belong to prakriti. And then we know that consciousness is so free from this prakriti body-mind-sense complex that the body-mind-sense complex may go and consciousness remains as the substratum. It's always there. It survives the deaths. It spreads all over. It's the substratum, all pervasive, and so on. We know those features. It's there, enlivening and sustaining through the gunas, the body-mind-sense complex, yet totally free from what it holds. Exactly like space. It somehow accommodates everything, but totally free and unaffected. The technical words of Vedanta, pure consciousness principle. I like this pure consciousness principle very much, because it means to say consciousness before it becomes colored by the gunas of prakriti, maya, because the consciousness is one and the same. But once it shines or reflects upon the subtle body, whatsoever configuration of this subtle body, is there, it's going to impact its reflection. It's exactly like a mirror. If you buy one of those wonderful first class, 300 years, 400 years old English mirrors, they reflect the objects before them to perfection. But you go to India, you buy those 100 rupees mirrors there, and it's going to change everything. You're not going to recognize yourself, because they are going to reflect it, and they have its own, let's say, features or impurities that are not offer a good reflection. So pure consciousness is that which is not distorted. Our human consciousness is distorted. What distorts our human consciousness is pure, and then it somehow hits the mind or the subtle body, and then appears with all its tendencies, its biases, its old interpretation, its notions, its cognitions, its impressions, emotional impression. So we see the world very subjectively because of the gunas. The gunas belong to our prakriti nature, and the subtle body is matter, it's subtle matter, but it's prakriti. And then pure consciousness is pure. But on the other hand, what are we going to do with pure consciousness? We do nothing. You know, we can do things with our human consciousness, reflect consciousness. But reflect consciousness is not pure, but that's the name of the game. You want to be an experienced entity, you need to have a reflecting medium, a body, three bodies. And then you're going to experience the prakriti nature of Maya. This mysterious, fascinating prakriti nature, Gita nature of Maya. All of that for pure consciousness, which is also called Sakshi Chaitanya, the witness principle, the changeless principle, and of all the change that happen. So important to note that this Chaitanya Sakshi, which is witnessing consciousness, it has two uh, two sides, let's say, to it. Okay, the true nature of Brahman is witness consciousness, or in better words, awareness. Awareness is awareness. Okay, it's not aware of something. The moment it becomes a witnessing consciousness, it is witnessing something. It's already within duality. Okay, so when we say Chaitanya Sakshi is the power to become a witnessing consciousness in duality, but it begins as pure awareness or pure consciousness. So this witness principle is changeless in its true nature. But once it becomes a yogi, so to speak, it's going to witness the world, and the best a yogi can do is to create a mind that change the least possible so that he can experience the world with much fluctuation to its subjectivity. And the best way to describe it would be a state of mind in which people go around seeing only the gunas, seeing only the elements, seeing only gods. That's the most, because I don't want to live in Evikalpa Samadhi because I'm going to miss the show. So I want to go around seeing the show, but seeing only God, seeing only Brahman, seeing only the gunas, the elements, the miracle of life. So it's the least possible modification of witnessing this phenomenal world without getting caught up into the attributes, the numberless attributes that are going to produce attraction and repulsion to the human mind. Therefore, the witness principle in its true nature is changeless. It's going to capture all the change. So I'm saying, now the mind is in peaceful condition. There is a witness of the peaceful state of the mind. The next moment, the mind is turbulent. So there is a witness of the changing mind, okay? Turbulent mind. So he's pointing to something which is not experience witnessing consciousness. It becomes a witnessing consciousness through the mind. But then with the change of the states of the mind, it's going to witness the world distorted by its mental, emotional conditions. But he's saying, even when you see the mind in turbulence, in disturbance, yet you can understand that the witnessing consciousness or pure consciousness is always there. It's always there. But unfortunately, producing a reflection which is turbulent. Therefore, this witnessing human consciousness is not seeing things objectively as we like to put. Seeing things objectively is so difficult. It requires such a higher state of development, of just holding your Chidabhasa, your reflect consciousness in a way of holding this knowledge, this realization, so that the mind change the least possible, so that I can have the max possible objectification of the world without being caught up with seeing attractions and repulsions. So, but there is this changeless witness consciousness, which is not an experienced entity, which is called Sakshi Chaitanya, which is one side of my mind. So now the mind, we are seeing the mind as the pure consciousness and reflect consciousness, which is the ahamkara in another, seen from another angle. So the pure consciousness is the witness, non-experienced consciousness, is the higher nature or the true nature of the mind of the intellect. And we have the mind or intellect, however we will prefer, which is subject to change. And Vedanta says that his intellect has to be purified and refined to the extent so that it does not change much, so that it may subject itself to the teachings, revelations of the Upanishads until it assimilates and internalizes and owns its true nature as non-experienced witness consciousness. And it can be done only if the consciousness, the experience witnessing consciousness is not changing all the time. Because if it's changing all the time, this viveka, this understand, this clarity, even if it's seen for a moment, it's lost in the next moment because the mind change, and then the very mind that's trying to find this self-realization is say, okay, but which mind got this realization? This now, the one of a few minutes ago, the one of yesterday evening, I got it, but I lost because the mind is changing. So it has to have a certain stability, which goes for preparedness, purification, refinement, maturity, and so on, so that this knowledge can be accomplished in the most direct possible way and the permanent possible way. And if that was not enough trouble, I have also the physical body, the mind principle and the body principle. The body is inert and the mind is sentient. So now another confusion. What is sentient here? That science does this confusion all the time. What is sentient here? Is the body, is the brain, or it is the mind? But what is the mind? They have no clue what the mind is. No? So the complexity goes into looking into my mental emotional nature as well, which is much more subtle, and my physical body, which appears to be a conscious being. I need to learn to see it as pure prakriti, inert, unable to process any thought, any emotion, anything. It's just solid, inert matter. A bundle of chemicals, a bundle of gunas, of 5 elements, a bag of chemicals, a bag of bones, flesh, and dirt. The body is inert. Not that we need to be disgusted by the body. We need to understand and not make a confusion to believe that consciousness or human consciousness or the human sentience comes from the body, because then we're in total mess, if we don't do that basic viveka. Tell you, Vedanta is simple, but it requires an individual to be so prepared, so qualified to understand these subtle distinctions. So the body is inert, but somehow it appears as a conscious being, a conscious body. But the consciousness does not belong to the body. And then you're going to tell people your consciousness does not come from the body. And then you say, if it does not come from the body, where it comes? And then what are you going to tell to these people? Anything you tell them, they are going to laugh at your face. If you say that consciousness is given by God, and the body is inert, but somehow consciousness bless the body with consciousness, they are going to scratch their head and say, these religious people, these spiritual people are mad. They are fanatics, because they have gross minds. They don't have minds which was spiritualized, refined, purified. So my body is alive, and you can see when the body is alive, it's moving and it is processing experience by the way it is responding from what comes from the field. You see the body is alive, it's giving some response. But that liveness is a mystery to most people. But its source is in consciousness, is in Purusha. Purusha somehow transfers its conscious feature to the subtle body. And the subtle body is going to bless the physical body with a feature of sentience. So that deceives us. You see, why Maya is said to be the greatest deceiver, the greatest trickers. It appears as that the body, has its own consciousness. And then when you think, no, consciousness is the only source of consciousness, okay. And then if consciousness is all pervasive, why the body dies and consciousness is not holding it alive for much longer? And then you have to explain, because consciousness does not enliven the physical body directly, but indirectly. It blesses the subtle body with the miracle of life, the miracle of sentience, the pranas, and so on. And then the subtle body is going to animate and give sentience to the physical body. So we need to understand those steps by which the body, which is inert, is a bag of chemicals or bag of prakriti, appears to be sentience. Because if I don't know where is the source of sentience, I'm being misled from the get-go in this search for my nature as consciousness. Everybody's out there believing that consciousness is a product or property of matter or subtle matter, everybody. And they find themselves to be spiritually very advanced. They are being misled. And these people are misleading millions of people around the planet. The body shines with and animated by the light of consciousness, which is blessing the subtle body, which is in turn blessing the physical body. Therefore, the body is inert, but because of pervading consciousness, body has got borrowed consciousness. It's okay, this borrowed consciousness, but you must have understood by now that I don't like very much as a concept. because when you borrow something, there is a sense of doing something, and then consciousness, the human consciousness has to pay a price. And some other aspects of scriptures or exposures within our sampradaya says yes, it's borrowed because human consciousness pays a price. What's the price? Punya papa, karma. So we need to know how to use this reflect consciousness, which is a sort of borrowed consciousness, so that we don't pay a higher price. But even punya is a price because it ties you to samsara. So the body has got reflect consciousness, okay? As if consciousness shines in every subtle body. I like to play saying that consciousness has an affection with subtle bodies. Or consciousness may be very vain because wherever there is a reflecting medium, it likes to reflect itself and show up as a hum. And then it's a reflect consciousness, a shining consciousness, which happens because it is the nature of consciousness to shine upon reflecting mediums. It shines upon the prakriti of Maya to produce Ishwara, Jiva, and Jagata, and shines upon the subtle body of the Jivas to produce the Ahamkara with all our ragas and dveshans and so on. Swami reminds us of this beautiful analogy to understand this sequence, that we have the boiling water and then we have the pot. Yeah? Sometimes it's present like you have a very well cooked vegetable cooked in India, and then you're gonna say, oh, it's very hot. This I forgot the name. Biji, no? I forgot. Anyhow, any vegetables. Yeah. Oh, it's very hot. So, and then heat is the intrinsic nature of this vegetable. No, no, it's got the heat from the water. The water passed on, transfer the heat. Okay, and then the intrinsic nature of water is the heat. I say, it's heat. I say, no, it's not the nature of the water. That was the nature of the pot because the pot was so hot that transferred the heat to the water. Okay, and then heat is the intrinsic nature of the pot. And then the guru has said, no, no, it's not the pot who owns really this heat intrinsic nature. Where is this nature coming from? It's come from fire. The intrinsic nature of fire is heat and the transfer to other things. No? So the same way consciousness is the only source of heat and it keeps transferring to Ishwara, Jiva, and Jagat through the entire Prakriti Mithya world. It's only one consciousness that somehow reflects to produce the Chittabhasa, Pratibimba, Chaitanya, reflected consciousness in the language of the Tattva Bodha and the text of Sampradaya of Adi Shankara, who is Panchadasi. Therefore, we are not sentient because of the mind, we are not sentient because of the body first, or the mind, and then for any other thing, the intrinsic, or not the pranas are making us sentient. There is this general concept that the pranas are the very source of the miracle of life, or the pranas are God, and it's a wonderful symbol of God, because it's a wonderful vibhuti, the pranas that somehow govern every construct in this physical, animal, and human realm. But no, the pranas is just benefiting or this sense of miracle of life is being transferred to the pranas, to these gunas. What are the pranas? They are energies that are intelligent designed to run our physiological systems. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So it's exactly like that. We have to trace it back to its source. And where is the source? Is pure consciousness. Pure consciousness. That somehow passes it on, transfers itself until we experience human consciousness. And then the human consciousness, everybody goes crazy, think that human consciousness is consciousness. No, it's human consciousness or mind. Ah, but there is a collective consciousness. Yeah, it's collective mind of the jivas. It's collective mental, realm, of all jivas put together, the mind of God. Then it's already stretched my understanding. But this consciousness does not change. Human consciousness individually and collectively. Collectively makes the culture. The cultures keep changing because collectively the mind of a civilization keeps changing. So now we have a body that appears to be sentient. We call it a live body. So prakriti becomes alive. The mind as well is prakriti is inert, but it becomes sentient, alive. But this mind, in reality, is intrinsically insentient. The mind is so important because it's the closest to this interface between pure consciousness and reflect consciousness. The reflect consciousness is going to produce the mind. The mind begins as a hum, the sense feeling, aham, I am, I exist, you know. And then it unfolds as the ahamkara mamakara. First it's on aham, and then the identification aham, corpo, mente, and my possessions, it's unavoidable. So the ahamkara, it's an unfoldment that comes from this interface, regional consciousness and reflect consciousness. It appears as aham, and then idam appears, and then I get totally identified with the body mind, and I start developing or reviving my vasana, my ragged versions, and getting attached to what I call mind, my body being the first one. Therefore, body, mind, sentience, borrowed sentience, technically called Chidabhasa. We have got a body that dances according to its, how could we put it? The glory of the Lord. It enjoys, reflect consciousness. We have a prakriti body, which appears to be live. And it's all due to original consciousness that somehow shines within the body mind. Every time the mind is attached to the body, we make this confusion. We take the body as intrinsically conscious, sentient being. Vedanta, in Vedanta parlance, this body-mind complex, otherwise called prakriti, with reflect sentience, borrowed sentience, consciousness. We call also ahamkara. Ahamkara is equal to body-mind complex, also referred here in this context as the prakriti plus borrowed consciousness. Now we have defined what is the ahamkara. What is the ahamkara? is reflect consciousness, Chidabhasa. He's saying that is the prakriti nature of the body mind plus reflect consciousness. And he's not including original consciousness, but the ahamkara is a mixture of original consciousness, reflect consciousness, and a reflecting medium, which is the subtle body. Huh? So here he's presenting as prakriti plus reflect consciousness equal to ahamkara or chidabhasa. Prakriti plus borrowed consciousness, reflect consciousness, which requires a reflecting medium. Prakriti plus chidabhasa is equal to ahamkara. So what is the ahamkara? Is prakriti blessed with a subtle body, blessed by consciousness to produce reflected consciousness. This reflects consciousness after a few years gets fully identified with its prakriti nature and experience this this binding, feeling of limitation due to this mistaken identification with ahamkara, mamakara. Therefore, metta plus borrowed consciousness is called ahamkara. So I'm presenting it differently. Present that metta prakriti plus reflected consciousness, which is obtained by original consciousness. We have original consciousness, reflecting medium, and then reflected consciousness is called the ahamkara. Okay, ahamkara requires original consciousness, reflect consciousness, which reflects upon a reflecting medium. And what is the name of this original consciousness? Sakshi Tattva. Sakshi is the name of the original consciousness. Ahankara is the name of the body-mind complex. Body-mind complex plus the reflecting consciousness or borrowed consciousness. So we often say that the ahankara is a reflection of consciousness upon the reflecting medium, which is the subtle body. But when we don't have a physical body, the reflection we experience is the reflection upon the dream state. We don't have a physical body, we only have a subtle body, and there is a certain reflection that produce another sort of duality, okay? But that does not count as much as far as our potential for spiritual realization. So what counts is consciousness reflecting upon the subtle body anchored to a physical body. When the subtle body is hooked up with the physical body, and then we have a body, mind, sense complex. And that is where original consciousness shines as the ahamkara. Ahamkara is not any sort of reflecting consciousness, but it is a reflection consciousness which is consciously identified with the body as the body, with the mind as the mind. Therefore, it's a more complex phenomenon, the ahamkara. Okay? Therefore, it's important to understand that the ahamkara reflects upon the body-mind complex, is a reflection, which of course, with original consciousness, reflect upon the body-mind-sense complex to produce a fully developed ahamkara, meaning to say reflect consciousness identified with the body-mind as the body-mind. So I'm enjoying this class very much, but I'm still having trouble with my voice and I still have pain in the morning. From what I research, I need to rest my voice. This rope, they call it cords, no? Vocal cords, and having all the classes I love to do, it's a little bit more difficult. So I'm I'm reducing my conversation, the conversation with Sylvia to the minimum to save my voice, and that does not make Sylvia very happy either, you know. So we meet again this coming Monday, right?
This was
Ishwara.
a wonderful class. Thank you so much. And when we come back, I would request we talk a little bit more about this mamakara in connection to the mind, and maybe seeing whether it's valid to see it more as Hiranyagarbha than one's own mind. I'm thinking in my
Okay,
country, right?
translate into English because I don't hold all these
Oh,
Sanskrit
yeah.
as
Um,
well as you do.
the cosmic subtle body, the
Okay.
macrocosmic subtle body that the mind, that I kind of think of all the time as my mind, my
Yeah.
job to purify, blah, blah. And then I see myself as separate mind with a different sattvic proportion than what's going on in my country right now, and it brings problems. So maybe if I looked at myself more as just one little speck of reflection in that um, larger mind, it would be
Yeah.
helpful.
So as you know, just a few words. Remind me next Monday so that we talk a little bit more about that.
I'll send a little note.
Yeah. Just this
I'm not,
sense, this sense of individuality, you know, my mind, my body, my vasanas, my effort, my punya, my papa, my actions, my results, all of that is there as the individual soul. It is there. And the goal is not to negate that there is an order designed intelligently based on meritocracy in which our effort counts big time. But in the process of development of the soul, this sense of being an individual self, you know, the doer, the experience, the enjoyer, etc., it starts fading. Okay, it starts fading. Not that the jiva says, okay, if that's the case, I don't need to care for the kind of words and actions I put in the field. No, it's just that once one begins understanding the big picture and begins enjoying the fact that the sense of doership and ownership, enjoyership, authorship is just due to the ignorance that compels the individual soul to identify with its prakriti nature. Okay, so to the degree that we grow, Lynn, we can put in terms, we can see the specifics of one's parabada, the circumstances of the field, and what maybe could be done, what could not be done. So in which way I can interact to trying to implement change, but never losing the vision of what is the most priority in my life. Understand? And never losing the perspective that this is intelligence, order, and ultimately, if we turn our attention to our most elevated Purushartha, which is self-inquiry and self-knowledge, we know that we are doing our best, and we know that Ishwara is taking care of everything. It's not that Ishwara is going to fix the situation of the field. It's going to present the humanities or a nationwide karma in according to everything that was done in the past. Consequences need to be paid. And if I have to pay because, for example, an American citizen living within the land, and what's the problem? Ishvara is going to impose this most fundamental law, which come and make us pay for consequence. I have been in contact with some of these gurus. I have been presenting the teachings in Portuguese language, and uh, Aurobindo, one of them, and Dayananda, another one, Shimaya, they had political tendencies as well. The three of them. Shimaya and Aurobindo, as far as I know, they went to prison because they were trying to fight the government or trying to implement change to the status quo. And Shimaya had, Dayananda had some of that. And now lately I got in contact with Swamini that she's good. She's from the Dayananda Sampradaya. She's a disciple of Dayananda.
Is
And
she the London
uh,
Swamini? In London, in England?
I'm going to share with you guys.
Great.
I like to tap into what she says some interviews because she offers a lot of insights into the Vedic Hindu culture as well, mostly. And I like to understand a little bit. But she has this bias, this tendency, a little bit political. Possibly she picked up from Dayananda, her guru. So Ishwara takes care of everything. It does not mean that he's going to save all of us. He's going to make us pay the price on the individual level and collective level. And we can relax about that and do what we find to be the highest priority
Yeah.
in our life.
Yeah.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishate Om Shanti 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 Om. But remind me next Monday so that we can explore a little bit more this topic before we begin. Okay? Namaste.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you very much, Alindo. Nice class. Great material.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate
see you next week.
it. Bye bye.